Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and every one that hears and sees this video. My name is Kenny Bomer. My Muslim name is Mujahid Islam. I'm the author of the book Consider Islam. And I want to talk today about some atheists from the Jinn and Tonic Show who were engaged with a Muslim brother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this brother for his patience and his sabr in dealing with these Islamophobes on this Jinn and Tonic Show this past weekend. And they talked about a number of different things, but primarily what I want to discuss is mountains. One of these characters on here was making the claim that the Quran has hundreds of mistakes, and he made reference to a verse of the Quran that states that the mountains were placed on the earth, and he was saying that the mountains grow from inside the earth. And obviously he's unaware of the fact that there's more than just that one verse. There's actually 4 verses of the Quran that address mountains, and by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to expose this guy once again. I've already exposed him in regards to the gaseous state of the universe before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the earth and the heavens, made it out of a gaseous material or a smoke. I may attach that video to this video, inshallah, God willing. But let's listen to about a minute or so of a conversation that he was having with this Muslim brother. I didn't catch the Muslim brother's name, but if he's listening, assalamu alaikum. You did a great job in remaining patient in the midst of these very ill-mannered comments from these guys. And let's get into this video, the short part of the video where they're talking about mountains, inshallah. Okay, so let's listen to this.
All right.
Yes.
Can I ask something a little bit different? If your God is the creator of everything, do you believe that this, your creator, wrote the Quran itself?
I believe he has actions, and of those actions is speaking. He speaks to whomever he wills of his creation. I believe that.
Okay, is the Quran a product of this God?
The Quran is a speech of God, just like the Torah was written by God. It's the words of God. Yes.
Okay.
It is the
so
actual word.
If God spoke the Quran and said these actual words, why are there so many factual errors in the creation process? Why does he say mountains are set on top of the earth when this is completely wrong? Why are there so many mistakes in the Quran?
I don't see those mistakes. I honestly don't see those mistakes. If there is something I don't understand, I try to understand it, but there is actually nothing in I don't know of anything which doesn't make sense. Last time we spoke about the embryology, and I told you, I don't see anything in the Quran to not make sense to me. It makes, in fact.
Okay, are mountains set on top of the earth?
Are mountains set on top? Yes. Where are the mountains?
Do mountains grow bottom up or top down?
Stop. You're missing. Why did you? What made you leave Islam? I just want to know.
I didn't leave Islam.
You are not a Muslim.
No.
Okay. What
Definitely not mountains.
Huh?
I'm talking about mountains, not about me.
Yes.
You said
Okay.
there is
I just want to
nothing
understand.
wrong with the Quran, and I am saying there is nothing that is correct. So one of the things that I maintain is a mistake in the Quran is where it says that mountains are set on top of the earth, where we know from the natural processes that mountains grow from the root up.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let's go to the verse of the Quran that he's referring to. I want to point out once again, there's 4 verses of the Quran, and apparently they're unaware of that. So they're talking about the Surah Al-Hijr. So let's read what he's talking about. It says, "In the earth we have spread out like a carpet, and set thereon mountains firm and immovable, and produce therein all kinds of things in due balance. I want to point out what it's saying here in regards to we have spread out the earth like a carpet and set thereon mountains firm and immovable. Okay, that's the translation by Yusuf Ali. Let's go to a different translation in the same surah by Picto. It says, "In the earth we have spread out and placed therein firm hills and caused each seemly thing to grow therein." Okay, so once again, this other translation of the same surah says we have placed therein firm hills. Okay, I want to point out, if you're not aware, if you look into this matter, you'll come to realize that what we see on top of the earth seems to be enormous. We take Mount Everest, for instance. It's a huge mountain, right? But it's actually, there's more of the mountain underneath the soil. It's actually bigger underneath than it is above ground. We'll talk about that in a second in regards to what the Quran says about pegs. So once again, this is the surah that he's talking about. But we see one translation says that that Allah set the mountains there on the earth, and one says therein. And let's go to a third one that says, "And we have spread out, and the earth we have spread out and have placed therein firm mountains and caused to grow therein all kinds of things in due proportion." Once again, we place therein firm mountains. And the word firm is very important in regards to these other surahs of the Quran that we'll get to in a second. Let's go back to this brief little interaction with these guys real quick. Okay, so where were we? Right here. All right, let's pick it up.
Rob, the Quran only says وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِيَ. He dispersed on the earth. What's the word? Problem is I'm not good in translation, but you can read it, the translation.
It doesn't matter, but it's wrong.
It's not wrong because you see mountains. Don't you see mountains? And don't you understand that those mountains are on earth?
No, there's a lot of mountains under the water. We don't see them.
Where does it say that mountains are under the water?
What's the verse stops?
I'm telling you that there are mountains under the water.
Okay, so what is the okay, there are mountains on the earth and mountains under the water. What are you trying to say? Stop. Let's go back to the topic, please.
Okay, so let's go to another surah of the Quran. Okay, so in Surah Anbiya, it says in verse 31, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says, "And we have placed in the earth," once again, "and we have placed in the earth firm mountains, lest it should move away with them. And we place therein passages for paths, that they happily may be guided." Once again, "and we have placed in the earth firm mountains, lest it should move away with them." Let's go to another surah of the Quran, Surah An-Naba. And listen to what this says. Praise be to Allah for this. And it says, "Concerning what they are disputing," lo and behold, we're disputing with these atheists about these very matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to ponder and reflect upon numerous times. Once again, 4 times in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala references the mountains. Praise be to Allah. And here we are in 2018 discussing these very matters, trying to use logic and reason and see the signs within the science. Praise be to Allah. And so it says, concerning what they are disputing, concerning the great news about which they cannot agree, verily they shall soon come to know. Allah says again and repeats the verse, but repeats that very phrase by saying, "Verily, verily, they shall soon come to know. Have we not made the earth as a wide expanse and the mountains as pegs?" Keep that in mind. I want to point out, if you have ever set up a tent, you use stakes or use pegs to secure the lines of the tent. And consider a mountain at the same time. If a mountain was a huge tent and it had ropes being secured into the ground, you would see a portion of the peg or the stake above ground. Most of it would be underneath the ground, right? Well, that's the same thing that applies to mountains. You see less of the mountain on top of the soil than you do below the soil. Below the soil, it's actually a bigger mass than above the soil. And matter of fact, let's take a look at this real quick. There's a prime example. This wasn't made by a Muslim, by the way. As you see, well, this was not as prominent, but we'll talk about a couple of things here in a second, which will demonstrate that the landmass, the root of the mountain, is actually larger underneath the soil than it is above the soil. And just like the stake in the ground for the tent, of course, the major part of the stake or the peg needs to be underneath the soil. And praise be to Allah. What does Allah say? That He placed these mountains as pegs so that the earth does not shake. And once again, verily, verily, they shall soon come to know, have we not made the earth as a wide expanse and made the mountains as pegs? Let's read this last surah of the Quran, Surah An-Naziat. It says, and He draweth out therefrom its water and its pasture, and the mountains hath He firmly fixed. Firmly fixed, just like firmly fixing a tent in place by using pegs in the process of securing the tent. Let's go to a different translation and see what it says in the same surah. Let's see. Having technical difficulty with that one for some reason. Okay, here we go. Picto. Let's see what Picto says. It says, and produced therefrom the water thereof and the pasture thereof, and He made fast the hills. Okay, so that's a little bit different translation there. At Moksin, it says, and He brought forth therefrom its water and its pasture, and the mountains He has firmly fixed. Once again, let's go to one more translation by Daryabadi. It says, and He brought forth therefrom its water and its pasture, and the mountains He established them firm. Praise be to Allah. So let's pick up once again with what was being said in this
Let's
video.
just go back to the topic.
This is the topic. Because
This is
I
not the
am
topic.
saying,
Last
I'm
argument
asking you, if your God is,
I don't
okay, we
think
can't
about
stuff, we
anything.
can't talk at the same time. If you talk and I talk, nobody can hear anything.
Okay. What's your point?
So what you are saying is that God is involved all the time in creation. This
Yes.
is your claim. And now
Yes.
I am asking, if this God is involved in the creation, why does He make so many mistakes in bragging about it?
I don't believe there are mistakes. There is this verse.
I know that you don't believe that there are mistakes, and this is why I'm asking you, can you show me a mountain that is placed on top of the earth? Or is the mountain always growing from out of the earth?
I don't. Can you refer to the verse which is the place of which
No.
you contend?
Can you show me one single sentence in the Quran which says that mountains grow out of the earth?
Mountains grow out of the earth. Why? I don't
Can you show
understand.
me in the
Are you saying
Quran
that
a
the
single
Quran
sentence
says
that says so?
Are you saying that the Quran says that and this is false?
I'm saying the Quran does not say that. It says the opposite, and that is false.
Okay, what is the opposite?
The opposite is that it's on top of the earth.
Well, obviously, the mountain is on top of the earth, and obviously, the mountain is underneath the earth. What I want to point out is that we didn't come to this knowledge until the seismograph was invented in the late 60s. Okay, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was revealed this through the angel Gabriel by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over 1400 years ago. And obviously that there was no seismograph invented at that time. How on the earth, how in the world would a man in the desert know this information if it did not come from our God or Creator, who referenced the mountains as being as pegs in the ground or stakes, that they were firmly fixed? Well, roots are firmly fixed, right? It's the same process. Roots, a stake, or pegs, they're firmly fixed. Same thing. So let's talk about what some scientists have said in regards to this. And I'm going to quote from a book titled The Earth. Matter of fact, you can find this in the book The Earth, which was written by Press and Seaver on page 435. And it says, scientists explain the importance of mountains as being pegs which stabilize the earth by saying, mountains have, this is a quote from their book, mountains have underlying roots. These roots are deeply embedded in the ground. Thus, mountains have a shape like a peg. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so these guys are saying this in this book after modern technology gave them the ability to explore this, and yet the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was revealed this once again by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over 1400 years ago. And praise be to Allah. Once again, mountains have underlying roots. These roots are deeply embedded in the ground. Thus, mountains have a shape like a peg. And it goes on to say the Earth's crust is 30 to 60 kilometers deep, this being known due to the seismograph. Also, it is known due to this machine, the seismograph, that every mountain has an underlying root which stabilizes the crust of the earth with the underlying layers and prevents the earth from shaking. Therefore, the mountain is similar to a nail which holds different pieces of wood together. Praise be to Allah. Let's go back to these verses. And it says, and the earth we have spread out and placed therein firm mountains and caused to grow therein all kinds of things in due proportion. That's one surah. The next surah says, and we have placed in the earth firm mountains, lest it should move away with them. And we've placed therein passages for paths that they happily may be guided. The third surah, concerning what they are disputing, concerning the great news about which they cannot agree, verily they shall soon come to know. Verily, verily, they shall soon come to know. Have we not made the earth as a wide expanse, and the mountains as pegs? Let's read the last surah, talking about mountains in the Qur'an. And we brought forth therefrom its water and its pasture. And the mountains, he established them firm. I'm going to go back and I'll read what these scientists have said in this book one time again. One more time. It says, mountains have underlying roots. These roots are deeply embedded in the ground. Thus, mountains have a shape like a peg. The earth's crust is 30 to 60 kilometers deep, this being known due to the seismograph. Also, it is known due to the seismograph that every mountain has an underlying root which stabilizes the crust of the earth with the underlying layers and prevents the earth from shaking. Therefore, the mountain is similar to a nail which holds different pieces of wood together. Praise be to Allah. So modern science attests to the fact that the mountains are distributed evenly and perfectly on the earth by the will of our God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which also stabilizes the earth. These mountains themselves are like stakes in the ground, pegs in the ground, just like staking a tent into the ground, so that the earth itself does not shake and move as much, of course, unless an earthquake takes place. But it says, especially mountains which geologists call asymmetrical mountain ranges. So, which you can actually find asymmetrical mountain ranges in every continent of the world. So, how can an unlettered man, once again, whose nation was mostly unlettered in Arabia, how could he have known this over 1400 years ago? Modern science affirms clearly that the mountains are like pegs in the ground, and that was revealed once again in the Quran over 1400 years ago. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So this guy's been exposed once again. I've already exposed him in regards to gas and smoke. When the universe was in a gaseous state. I've created another video about that, and I may attach it to this video, inshallah, God willing. You can also look this information up in a book titled, once again, The Earth, which is a basic reference textbook in many universities around the world. And one of its authors is Professor Emeritus Frank Kress. And if you have never heard of him, he was a science advisor to former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. And for 12 years, he was the president of the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C. And his book says that mountains, once again, have underlying roots. And these roots are deeply embedded in the ground. Thus, mountains have a shape like a peg. And there's references to that. Matter of fact, let's go to a couple of websites. That way you don't think this is all coming from Islamic Muslim sources. Let's go right here. See, let me bring this down real quick. You could simply go to look up dynamic surfaces of the earth, and you could read about the mountains here, concepts of isostasy, and also go to this Penn site, University College of the Earth and Natural Sciences, and look up plate tectonics and people in Earth 520, and just basically just do a little bit of research. Also, this website right here, if you can see it on the screen, this is Qur'an Errors Blogspot, where this person has written a refutation regarding people claiming that there were scientific errors in the Quran regarding the mountains. And you can just go through and see all these different scientists that have made statements regarding the mountains that are confirming the Quran. Praise be to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our Creator, calls us to ponder, think, and to reflect and use rational, just common sense, that these Islamophobes, these hate mongers, these bigots, and on the show, this Jinn and Tonic Show, and people like them that continually attack Islam day in, day out, week in, week out, as if our God, our Creator, is not watching them. Allah does tell us in the Quran, as for those who disbelieve, it matters not if you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. For Allah has set a seal over their hearts and over their hearing and over their eyes as the veil. Woe to them for the penalty that they will incur. They hear, but they don't hear. They see, but they do not see. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts my effort to expose this guy that, for the second or third time, matter of fact. Praise be to Allah. The truth always stands clear from falsehood. Praise be to Allah. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts my efforts and forgives me for any mistakes that I might have made. I pray that He gives us all patience in dealing with these types of characters, and that He blesses the Muslim brother that was engaged in this conversation with these guys. He was continually belittled and just talked too sarcastically, and just, it's pathetic, really. But he did a great job. He remained very patient, and he conducted himself with dignity and respect, and he didn't use any foul language that was used in addressing him. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our Creator, bless him for his efforts, and may he guide us all to more truth and understanding. They did talk about a variety of different things in this video that I could easily address. One of those things, which is apostasy. If you have not studied the rules of engagement in regards to apostasy, there's absolute rules in place that almost make apostasy absolutely impossible to enact. And if you don't study this, you're not aware of that. So don't listen to these guys. You hear this guy talk, and he makes it sound like, oh, he's found hundreds of mistakes in the Quran, and he's got people listening that actually believe that. That people that haven't actually studied these things for themselves, haven't looked into these things for themselves, and so they take these people that are creating these shows and making these comments, they take them as authorities, which they are obviously not. So I encourage everyone who's listening, atheists, Muslims, Christians, it doesn't matter, to engage yourself in seeking knowledge and seek it from different sources. If something sounds odd to you, well, look into it. And if something sounds like it's legitimate, well, guess what? Look into that as well to make sure that what you've heard is the truth. I encourage you to don't take anything that I've said as being the truth. Look into the truth for yourself, and you can be sure that you will find it if you're sincerely looking for it. So I'll leave you by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and every one who hears and sees this video. I do ask you to subscribe, like, and share this video. I've exposed this atheist, all of these atheists on the show, matter of fact, and that's all for the sake of our God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't do it seeking any self-glory or anything like that. I do this because I love Islam and what it has done for many, many people in this world. It is the true path of our God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a blueprint for success, a roadmap to success. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all to Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path of Allah. And I'll leave you once again by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.